Day 29 in the journal Journey of Learning. We're going to configure Syslog. As we stated in the previous video, we want to begin gathering stats from the devices so that we can add some sort of monitoring to the devices, as well as be able to at some point to use those stats to have some insights as to the performance, historical performance of the devices. So, as always, we will first create a script to follow so that we're not stumbling as we go through this. And I've actually already have configured most of the devices. Let's clear the screen, but we're going to configure this next device here. All right, so we're going to go into configuration mode, and we're going to turn on logging. Let's do that first. Next, logging facility. We're going to designate this as local 0, and I've also arranged where we'll create categories where local 0 will represent all switches, and then local 1 will represent all of the routers. Local 2 will represent wireless. You have a choice from 0 to 7, and you can set that up however you wish. But all of local 0 are switches, and then you have local 1, which I've decided to designate for the routers. So I've used local 1 on the routers. The next thing we want to do is designate what is the IP address of the syslog server, and that is going to be 10.10.5.8. Logging source interface. We want to use on our switches something that is always up, so we're going to use VLAN 5. On the routers, I'm using loopback 0. Next, let's adjust the clock time zone. This is not necessary, but recommended based on the research that I've done. So it's recommended, not necessary. And as you can see, the UTC time has changed to EST. Log into host. Nice. You see that it's actually started logging to that host. That's nice. Nice to see. Some confirmation taking place. Timestamps. We're going to add these timestamps. Again, this is something that I believe is optional. So we do want to have timestamps for uptime, etc. I think that's very useful. And sequence numbers. All right, let's designate how big we want the buffer to be for logging. And that's the memory. How much memory will we designate for syslog? Well, for the logging of the messages in the device so that it can then go to the syslog server. If you turned off your console, remember we sometimes will do no logging console so that those messages won't interrupt us while we're typing. So you end up having to turn this, you have to re-enable that so that you can gather that information as well in your syslog. Okay, so now that is finished. Let's exit that. Let's just confirm with show logging. Yeah. And we see here syslog logging is enabled. Here we're using VLAN 5, as you can see. It's logging to here. He's using UDP port 514, and that is the port that our syslog software is actually using. Let's clear this. Show run. Something, and I apologize for that. Mistype. So something else that you can use to go to review your configuration. You can use show run pipe include logging just to review your configuration. Remember, we want to copy run start or write to mem. So the next thing I want to talk about with the syslog now, and I actually have it still open, so let's bring that up. So in the wireless controller, I decided to use the GUI for this. So you want to enter the IP address of syslog server. You will place it here, click add. Next, turn on syslog level. So we're going to go with informational, just as we did with the command line interface for the switch. That will collect all information from information and with a higher designation. We're going to use local use 2. Remember, wireless, all wireless will be local 2. Um, routers are local 1, and switches are local 0. So you're using local 2 for everything wireless. Next, buffer log level, console log level, same thing here. Click apply, and that will take care of what you need for your wireless controller. But the wireless access point is a little different. This is all you need. And then, of course, you want to do a config save for the AP. So for your access points, you go into, it has to be configured from the wireless controller. So you can go into your command line interface using PuTTY or TerraTerm, log into the wireless controller, issue these commands. Remember, you're going to change this one, the local. Well, I'm using local 2, depends on what you want to use. I'm using informational for all, and this is global. This is for all wireless, all access points. So config, access point, logging, syslog level, informational. So everything informational and higher. And this is for all wireless. And then designate the syslog server and its IP address. And this is a global server. This is for all APs, not just one particular AP. You will use your show AP config global to verify, and then you can also use show logging. Last thing, config save to save your configuration. Now, is that really working? So I've been playing around with this for a little while, and so let me show you. And as you can see now, we are gathering information via syslog. So we have something in our logs. So now we can take this information and do what we want to do with it, whatever plans we have. I do have some plans for this, and I'll be revealing that in my next video. So thank you for viewing.